Good day, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are.
Hey, Martin.
RGM. Is the voice sounds like Rich McDonald, but the is
It
different.
is.
Yeah, but
I don't know why my computer name is coming up on there, but sort of weird. That's never happened before.
no worry. I mean, I recognize your voice, so okay, I can live with that. Before it was also weird because it was always iPhone Rich or something. But
Well, yeah, I'm not traveling today, so it's not
okay,
iPhone.
yeah, nice. So we don't have interruptions. Anyway, hello, Roland.
Hi, Martin. Hi, everybody.
Hi. We could start right away because it's 10 o'clock already. So the last meeting I found very, very, very exciting. I had many, many questions, but I didn't find 1 second where I could ask a question. This guy was simply talking very fast, like a young horse, running no stop to it. And I didn't dare to interrupt him because it was so interesting what he had to tell.
So what were some of your questions?
Uh, so one of the questions that was on my heart really was, I feel that the venture capital is drying out, and I tried to bring this up and discuss it, but it was this was just like a waterfall, no, never ending. So, and he just brushed it off by saying, "No, that's not true. There's lots of venture capital, just that there was no cash out recently, so there's no cash in the community." And I believe that goes against what I know about venture capital companies, because a venture capital company always needs um, the money from a, I mean, best would be from an institutional investor, like a life insurance that want to bring up the interest rates, or I mean, they call it asset manager, I believe. These are people that work in companies that collect large amounts of money because they have. Alessandro is here. Very good. Please unmute your microphone directly, because uh, last week was really impressive. But I had a lot of questions, and I couldn't ask because we were talking like a waterfall. So I didn't dare to interrupt you, just to let the information flow and not being an obstacle, right? But I have a lot of questions.
Okay, well, I'm back. Hi, everyone. So happy
Yes.
to answer question now or per email, or you tell me whatever. But I came also to just to attend and get to know
Yes.
you more.
Yeah, but what you said, that gave me questions for 5 more sessions or so, right? So um, please forgive me if I'm very unknowledgeable. All what I know about venture capitalists is what I've seen as a patent attorney when they invested into a startup that we work for. That's one experience. And another experience is from reading about experiences that others had. And then there's in Singapore, there's a quite a famous ex-member of parliament. His name is Davinder Singh, I believe, or Ravinder Singh. I forgot. He's also a professor adjunct at one of the universities here, and quite a famous
Mhm.
guy, and very. So he wrote the book, the art and the what is it? The art and the mastery of setting of being an entrepreneur, or something like that. And I have the book here for a book review, but I was always postponing it because when I read it the first time, I saw that about two-thirds of it is about how to getting money from a venture capitalist. And for all my startups that I've seen, I can really not recommend it. but again, I'm a patent attorney, and I'm not a startup founder myself in a sense, and I'm not sourcing capital of venture capitalists. But what I've seen is that the outcome is less positive than it seems to be, and because mostly I never had a unicorn. So, and I understood that a venture capitalist in the first place is doing all this effort just in order to get one unicorn in 10 years, which gives them more than $1 billion valuation, and then you hope that you are invested with 1 million and you get that a factor 50 or 100 from your 1 million.
Martin, actually, if I can say two quick things. One is, there are different sources of capital for an entrepreneur. So it's not that venture capital is good for everybody, but in general, venture capital is an expensive source of money because you give away a piece of your company. So if you can avoid it, please do avoid venture capital.
Yeah, but that's
the truth. The second one, the goal is not so much a unicorn, because really, yes, it's $1 billion, but it's a paper money. It's a paper valuation. What really is important is the exit, is the valuation you get when you get acquired.
Yes.
Or go public. That's what matters. Being a unicorn is more a flashy marketing thing than sometimes anything else. Anyway, I shut up.
No, don't shut up. Look, we are here a circle of practitioners who touch innovation on a daily basis, and we are not, as far as I know, there's no one here who is an expert in funding innovation. I'm not. I mean, I'm an expert in so far as I say, why don't you sell from day one? Because the money that you make from pre-sales is the cheapest money that is available on the market, except what your friends and family would give you as a lost investment. It's also expensive because you pay with your relationship. But if you have a good product and people that really need that product because it would solve a problem for them, and they pay you advance cash, I believe that's a very smart way of financing your startup, because you catch several birds with one single stone. The first would be, number one, you don't need to give equity for an investment because you sell the product based on the trust that you would deliver. Number two, if you do that successfully, it would show you that there's a need for that product in the market, or there's a problem that is worth being solved, worded from the other side around. And number three, you're already honing your sales skills, which you would later need when you run a company that emerges from that startup. Number four, you show to others that there's a real value in your company because you have actual sales. And most startups that I have seen that went bankrupt, they had zero sales until the final moment. But a lot of investors that were knocking at the doors. So, and there are certainly more than these four advantages that you have from doing pre-sales. And but on the other hand, this venture capital is quite intriguing, because if you build up a business of setting up startups and you have an ongoing relationship with one or more venture capitalists who can tap into institutional investors and have no asset managers who want to support them. I believe there are some called limited partners, right? And then, or maybe even not, because the limited partners are the ones who know the banks and the insurance companies who have excess money to invest. So if you really bet on that horse that you are an expert in building up startups, then you find investors, among others venture capitalists, and then you drive this for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and then you make this a profession. So if someone asks you, who are you? And then say, oh, I'm a startup builder and seller. And then I believe that would make sense. But most startups that I have seen are set up by technicians who ultimately are not even interested in selling their products. They want to play in the lab with the latest technology. And then, yeah, so that's where I'm coming from, Alessandro. And I wanted to ask all these questions last time, but maybe today we can talk about it. And also others contribute to that, because I don't run this alone. We are a team here.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, I'm here for any question, or I'm happy to
Yep. So
chime in. And sorry, another maybe comment also, if you have to work, so if you can avoid venture capital, as I said, it's an expensive way to get money, so you don't have to do that if you can avoid it. And second, not every venture capital is the same. There are good firms like everywhere, and less good firm, let's put it that way. So you also want to choose the venture capital that help you to build a business that add value, not just with the money, but also with their experience, their network. So the good venture capital firm will actively help the startup to build a business. And some venture capital firm actually make difference between fail and success. So anyway.
okay.
So, Alessandro, this is Rich again. Again, thank you for last week's overview and slide deck.
Sure.
My experience is twofold. One is corporate innovation and management. Then also I did a med tech startup, and basically took that through technology development and into the prototype stage. We never made it into production per se, but we basically went into the licensing mode instead of the manufacturing mode, as it turned out later, to market our software as well as our actuation technology that we developed. And I was the inventor behind both of those technologies, but hired a team, a technical team to execute for me to that vision. And during that process, had many conversations with venture capital firms of all sizes and shapes, and many probably that you know. And basically, as the result of some of those conversations, some of the early learnings that I had in those conversations were, number one, we were way too early to be talking to a VC, which that message was loud and clear. Basically because we just didn't have the traction, in the marketplace, and to be able to provide any type of sales data, to our investor group. And we funded ourselves. I funded the company myself, and spent a lot of money doing that. So lots of lessons learned there. But suffice to say that in these discussions with angel investors, as well as with different types of investors, if you would, both friends and family, but also beyond that into VCs. Most of the time the conversations revolved around our tech, of course, and our vision of the market and how we're going to penetrate the market and go to market strategies, etc. And my question really today for you is related to some advice that you would offer firms that are in that early stage, pre-revenue stage, and ways to introduce themselves to the investor community, whether that be angels and or VCs.
Well, hi, Rich, and nice to hear back from you, and thanks for your question. By the way, beside being I share probably similar experience with you, because also I spend most of my time in corporate innovation, right? At BMW, Siemens, Hyundai. So last time I was explaining the difference between venture capital and corporate venture capital, where the corporate has really the mission of, more sourcing technology, innovation, new product, and so on, rather than the financial return. And I'm actually currently building a couple of startups myself. Actually, I'm a co-founder of two startups that are very early stage. They are pre-revenue, pre-seed. And so we are in the phase of still building the technology in a way. So normally, depending on, of course, the sector and the stage, but typically often the first money come from the co-founders, if they have some money. Some, if maybe they had already maybe a previous exit or startup, then they self-funded. Then another wave of money come from what they call the family and friends, the 100K type, where people go around the family, friends, business contact to get $5,000, $10,000, euro checks to start. And then there are angels. And some are more like individuals, and other are organized in groups. So angel is a good spot to go typically at this stage. Venture capital mostly tend to come normally when you have, I will say, some kind of prototype or proof of concept or minimal MVP, right? Minimal valuable product of some sort. And when also you have some market validation or voice of customer, basically where in the early phase, while you develop the MVP, you also make sure that this has relevance in a market. And so it's always recommended to go and understand the market, do market analysis, but also then to go and talk to what you think are the potential customer in the ecosystem, and have call with them to validate, understand their problem, their needs, and if your potential idea could be valuable to them. When you have these pieces, then is when maybe some venture capital start getting interested. But typically, venture capital want to see, more and more. There are some venture capital that come very early. Some they even incubate startup or they build startup from scratch. So some would even have. So there are the many flavors. Anyway, some venture capital even hire what they call the entrepreneur in residence, so an expert to build a startup, to identify a problem and really build a startup from scratch. Big VC in Silicon Valley called Sutter Hill Ventures has a track record actually of getting people and really building startup and seeding them from the beginning. But so anyway, there is not a single recipe. That's what I'm saying. And so you have to develop your own network and talk to angels, identify venture capital that are relevant for you at stage, sector, market, product, and that they also have expertise in that area and could potentially help you. And initially maybe you engage them informally, even over coffee, to get to know them and bring give your idea a little bit and see if they have a recommendation and possibly can help.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Thank you.
There are other source of funding, right? Initially, especially for technologies development, there are grants from governments, right? So those are
Right.
actually non-dilutive type of funding. Grants are good because you don't give away. There's basically free money, right? If you can get them. In
Sure.
US, there are a lot of grants, so especially in the area of defense, from like Department of Defense, Air Force, US Navy, or other government agencies like Department of Energy. Although now a lot of them got cut by Mr. Trump. But
Yeah,
anyway, point is
right.
there are
Right.
grants given on country, or I don't know if it's space, maybe from European Space Agency, NASA, and things like that. And there are also foundation. And so point is there are different way of, getting money. And grants are always good because it's basically free money. It's you apply it takes a while, you get them, and you develop your technology product with the money. You don't have to give away any part of the company.
Yeah, the SBIR grants are,
Like SBIR,
yeah,
STTR, and so on. There are
yeah,
different
yeah, those are
buckets.
great.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the challenges that I ran into um, in our funding cycle was the the mentality, I'm going to call it, of investors to be looking for, software companies, even though they said that they were interested in hard tech,
Mm.
um, you know,
Really
they also were looking, for, software investments,
oh,
right?
interesting.
And
Where are you based? In US or Europe?
no, US. Yeah.
US. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, some
And
PCs that I know, there is one called, I mean, there are, maybe less, but there are some that are only focusing on hardware. And
yeah,
so they
yeah,
should
yeah.
be. That's what they pitch at least. So
Yeah.
other are more
Yeah.
generalist.
Yeah, and we discovered those as we went along. But it was just, a pretty torturous path,
Hmm.
if you would,
It takes
to
some
get
time and
there.
research for sure, right? Not every VC, not every firm is the right one. You need to find those that are a possible good fit for you.
Yeah.
Another group category of player at early stage are incubators, accelerators, and there are now so many that they have different programs and like the famous one are Y Combinator or Techstars and the Techstars of the world or Alchemist, some of the most famous name. There are different programs that you apply, they accept startup and they expose you to, they have network of mentors, they expose you to venture capital, angels, they help you to refine your business plan, your business case, your market analysis, your customer traction. And that's another category that you might want to look into. Some you also invest the 50, 100, 200K in early phase in return. Sometimes they're a bit expensive. I'm sure you heard of Y Combinator or
Oh,
Techstars.
yeah, sure. Yep.
Mm.
Both of
So
them.
that's another source or avenue to look in parallel.
Yeah, sure. My comment was,
Where are you based, and what's your startup doing? In what
um,
sector?
I've exited the startup, but, um,
MedTech.
basically, we were in the space of orthopedics and
Oh, okay.
orthopedic brace space, and brace and supports, specifically targeting the athletic community.
Okay.
Um, and then we also had,
Yes.
opportunities that we identified and, through DARPA, the special forces had
Right.
tremendous problems with ankle sprains that
Yep.
we came to discover. And, we were talking to DARPA and about, applying our product to their need. Um,
Hmm.
and so that was a really good lead. And then we had some other, in a very, very distant adjacent market. We were introduced to a gentleman that was a large animal vet and veterinary doctor.
Hmm.
And he basically said, our technology would have been pretty ideal for um, basically, very high-end thoroughbred horses. So we were, interested in looking at that niche as well. But
Okay.
anyway, my earlier comment was really related to the difference in um, the investor community of, hard tech investors versus soft tech, or software, kinds of investors, right? And
Hmm.
I mean, so many investors that we had talked to, were just so focused on, the software, aspect and looking at our product and technology. I mean, we had a software component and we had a hardware component, and they had a hard time wrapping their head around that, frankly.
Yeah.
So that was a real challenge, at that point in time, and we're talking years ago now that we were working on this and looking for money. But I mean, this is back in 15 and 2015, 2016, 17, and 18. We were, really looking for money. But, back then it was, the angel community was really the focus of our attention. But even those guys and gals were really looking for, these investments that, were just immediate home runs, right? And, and they kept seeing, software companies and software, um, software as a service, kind of a thing, really being, the way to riches. So, I mean, it was a challenge for us, needless to say.
Sorry, as you speak, I'm actually putting in the chat. There are actually, I just saw the other day, there is a venture capital that focus only on orthopedic startups. And he's in Minneapolis. It's called Orthopedic Venture Partners.
Wow, okay.
And I just see by doing Google, I found there is another one that seems to invest only in orthopedic related stuff. So you might want to have a chat with these folks.
Yeah, I'm out of that now, but I appreciate that, and I will take a look at it just for information
for
purposes.
future reference, or your ex-colleague or something. Yeah, there is another one I see. The Robert Gladden Orthopedic Society seems like. Anyway, so there are VC that are focused on medtech and particularly medical devices and hardware more than software. There is here another one. I'll just send you for reference. Endri Ventures. It's the only venture capital network of orthopedic surgeons investing in early stage orthopedic companies. So here you have another one.
Yeah, excellent.
So these are the type of one, sometimes you have to, take some research and the network. Okay, I just sent you 2 links on the chat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So Martin, I'll be quiet now and let you get back to your questions.
Anyway, if you have other questions in the future, please reach out to my email.
What I see is so important that to have also the finance people here in the innovation meet.
Well,
I mean,
capital is necessary to do innovation, right? So it's one piece. You need an entrepreneur, you need a team, you need obviously the market, the customer, the problem, right? What problem you solve, and then and the capital. And
what I can see, this capital thing is on a regular basis neglected. Then those startup founders, once they found one source for funding their venture, then they give up for looking for other sources, and then that's it. And I can see that those investors, they at one point in time, if they don't see results, they lose interest. And I believe that applies more to venture capitalists than let's say angel investors or others. Is this right? So you want to hear questions. So I'm asking now, is this right? Because before I have put things to you, and that it just seems that it dropped off like from a Teflon pan. So yeah, my question is this right, that venture capitalists give up sooner than, let's say, others, the angel investors, for example?
Is it for me?
Yes.
What What do you mean they gave up than angel? I mean, angels come at a very early phase of investment.
Okay.
Venture firm typically, and again, there are different phases for a company, right? It's like a human being. It's the baby phase when it's just born, is
Yes.
incubated, is taken care by, mom and pop, and then by, by angels. So that like, but as it grows, it become a young boy, a teenager, an adult, and he has different needs. There are different type of firms. Initially, smaller venture capital, they put the $2 million checks, 5 million, and so on. And then when it's already a grown-up company growing, then there are big firms that deploy $100 million or something. So every phase has different needs of capital and also firms that play. The big firms, so late stage, will not invest in the early phase. So typically company that are technology play and they are fit for venture capital, obviously then they keep going that route, right? They go through round A round, B round, C round.
Yes.
The question is that several company don't meet the milestone or don't do well enough that get maybe they get an A round and then they're not able to get a B round. And so some die. Uh, and there are statistics and number actually on what's the percentage of company dying along the way, right? Between after seed stage and post A round and then after the B round and so on. So typically, when you get to B round, you have a product in the market, you have early revenue, you have customers. Now the question is if you meet expectation, if you can grow fast enough, or if you just grow a little bit. And until B round, you are not break even, so you burn more money than the revenue and the profit you get. So you need more venture capital money because you're not break even yet.
Yes.
It's only when you get to break even that then potentially you are financially independent. Still, some company they want to they get venture capital because they can accelerate their growth much faster. Instead of growing 5% in a hot market, they can hire a lot of sales and marketing people and grow much, much faster. Um, and so then they also engage with corporate, and corporate come in A or in B round typically, and then they become also customer or channel partners, or they could become the acquirer. So point is there are different type of company or investors that come along the way. So company evolves, and so the type of investor evolves as well. But for company, tech startup with high growth potential, those are the characteristics of venture capital. You are into the venture capital scene and not private equity, for example.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, private
you know, so,
equity is less into startups, I would say, than what.
so, so okay, so venture capital is a form of private equity, right? The two word private means company that are still private, they are not public in public market.
Okay.
Google is public. OpenAI is private, it's not public yet. And the other is equity versus debt. In the balance sheets and cash flow, the financial statement of a company, you can finance through equity and also through debt. And also it's sometimes both. But anyway, so what pertains equity, it means, some company, somebody give you money in return of a portion of the company equity,
Yes.
so shares. So venture capital is private equity, just that the difference, private venture capital typically focus on new technologies, like robotics,
Yes.
autonomous vehicle, maybe space, the next frontier, something new, with hyper growth. Three guys in a garage with an idea, but they can, become the Google type. That's venture capital. The private equity firms typically invest more in small, medium-sized enterprises that are more stable, normal type of businesses. It could be, yeah, bakery. It could be, venture capital will not invest in bakery. It's not, there is nothing technology there. Private equity are the one that maybe take a chain of McDonald's, right? So food, mining, more traditional industries.
Yes.
Venture capital started with the software, right? With internet and software, and then expanded into also, say, automotive, but related to a electric vehicle, autonomous vehicle, all the new stuff, or biotech, new drugs, genomics. So all the new discovery in science and engineering that can bring into new products or also new business model.
Okay, Alessandro, just to give this a direction. In my personal practice as a patent attorney, I frequently see people with a good idea, and they start putting time and money into developing that idea into something that looks like a product. At what point in time should they start looking for investors, and when would they look into addressing venture capitalists? And or I mean, you came here by saying that you're a venture capitalist representative, so I assume that you know that best. But as I listen to you, you also know all the other ways of funding a company. So what would you tell this person that sits in front of you? You are the patent attorney, and you want to go the extra mile and want to help this guy not only to secure his intellectual property, but also have success in business. How would you approach this problem? Because
I mean, again, if you start a business with a new idea, right? Well, first you see if you have money yourself. That's the best way. You don't have to go out looking for money.
Let's assume he has
But
50,000.
if you need, and the first thing that many entrepreneurs do, they have already maybe some money from saving from a previous startup or something, so they tend to put their own money.
Very often they get some money because nowadays they are retrenched, and then they get a golden handshake.
Yeah, but if they don't have their own money, they need money externally. So some at the very early phase, they go around family and friends.
Yes. Okay. Now assume they have they built something, a medical device, and they brought 50,000 from their own, and they went around family and friends, put in another 150K. They have 200, but they need 1.5 million. What's next?
So that the 1.5 million, it's already, it's already in the angel early venture capital league. So you start looking into angels, individual, maybe medical doctor or somebody, in the field, expert. They have an interest in that particular idea, in the particular market industry.
Yes.
Maybe they have some money, it could be some surgeon, for example, like I just show you these. Specific venture capital in orthopedic is a conglomerate of, I don't know,
how much of the time
surgeons, right?
How much of the time would they use for that work?
Sorry, how much time to raise?
How many percent of the let's say, I mean, the workday has only 16 hours for them. So how many hours per day would they look for those people?
Oh, money. When you do fundraising, money become a full-time job for the CEO. It become your main occupation, unfortunately.
Okay.
People spend when the startup are in a fundraising. I just closed a deal now in a startup in semiconductor space.
Okay.
It's a Series A, 40 people. They have revenue, they have product, they have customer.
But Series A is already
the CEO
millions, right?
The CEO raised 25 million. It took him 6 months.
Okay, but he didn't go from 200,000 to 25 million, right?
No, I just gave you this example, but yeah, whatever is the money is the amount and the stage, it takes time, and it's a full-time job.
But go back, unless you tell me that you don't want it, then I stop here. But I gave you this example. The inventor with 50K, he has a nice medical application, is a device plus software. Then friends and family gave him 150K.
Yep.
Now he can pay another guy or a technician who would help him to develop that, and maybe another one or two.
Yep.
So they are now 9 months down the road. What would
Yep.
he do next?
So he has a prototype and
Yes,
develop it.
there's
And he needs
a
more money. I mean, he needs more money. Why? Because he needs to hire more people, right? More engineers, more
yes,
also even sales or something, right?
yes,
And pay salary for him or some salary and
yes,
so on,
yes,
right?
yes,
And
yes,
and then maybe have a lab and build a better prototype and then
yes,
reach out to customer, all those steps, right, of the
yes,
business plan. So you say he needs 1 million or half a million or something like that.
yes,
You need to go out looking for the money. So now the question, yeah, it will take months of work. You need to go and find individuals interested in this idea that then you go
okay,
and talk to them, have coffee, go to dinner, go to lunch, have
yes,
a presentation. So it's not unless, maybe some friends or business people get the idea
okay,
and they write him $200,000 checks. I mean, if he's
yes,
lucky to know that people, right, that he has a wealthy individual as a friend, and maybe
okay,
they put 100K each, 5 people, he raise $500,000 in a week if he's lucky, but that's not typically the case. So you have to
yes.
do presentation, meet new
What is
people, get introduction,
what is
go
your
and present
estimation?
to angels, and go and start talking to early stage venture capital and go
Yes.
around, and
Mm.
that takes months.
Yes, yes. What is your estimation if you want to collect, let's say, the 500K for the next year or for the next 1.5? How many people would you
Probably
need?
it happen over, people start getting, you get somebody and you put a 50K and you start
Yes,
getting
yes,
those in,
yes,
and
yes,
then other 100K and so on.
yes, yes.
And
So
it will take 3 to 6 months.
how many people would he need to contact in those 3 to 6 months?
Depends on his network and how hot is the thing and if he go to the wrong people or the right people. But I mean, I don't know. It could be that you get a group of angels that is focused right on spot on that, and they put, $500,000 themselves.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But how many people would
So
you need to ask until he would find that, these people, more or less? Is it
always depends
50,
on network. It depends on
200 or
network.
2,000 or 20,000? How
It
many would?
could, no, it probably, it could be 50, 100 in that range, you
Okay.
know, 20, 30, 50, 100, something like that.
Then and they together would so
I
the
mean, again, if you do a good search and you go target, if you go a little bit random, then it's more people. But if you
yes.
target, I mean, you screen and say, oh, there are 100 venture capital, but I don't spam all of them because I know that 90 don't care of my stuff. You go only to those 10 that care for your things.
But he would surely not address venture capitalists because he's too
Well,
early.
early stage, well, I don't know. It's a gray area. There is no right or wrong formula, but there could be some venture. You might want to start talking to some. There are early stage venture capital that also invest once you have a prototype or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
If
because
it's a
that's
If you're
million and
gonna
a
go
half,
venture, you might as well go venture.
if it's over a million, angels, super angel get to 500, to 300K, 500K, maybe a million, but then it start becoming venture capital. So it depends on how much you're raising. Maybe you just raise 3, 400K from the angels, and then you start at the same time talking to venture capital to raise a million. So you do in 2 stages.
okay. Yeah, what I can tell you, those inventors that I see on a frequent basis, if I tell them that, they look at me with big eyes because they're very, very surprised. So as
What's surprising that the time you spend to raise, or?
no, it's just when I tell them, look, now you need to get 500K, and then they ask me what to do. I said, yeah, I need to go
Oh,
out and look. And then they said, look what? And I said, how many phone numbers do you have in your phone? And then
0.
they would say 500. And I said, yeah, okay, now you know what to do. Call them. And then they
Yeah,
look, no, I will not call my phone numbers and ask for money. No.
right. It's hard. I mean, some people do that. Some people don't want to go to their friends or family to ask for money.
Yeah.
But there are angels, there are people that you don't know, but they are there to invest in those ideas. So you
How
have to
how would
connect.
they find them, those angels?
And network, you research on Google, you ask your people in your network.
Okay.
There are accelerator or incubators that help you doing that.
Okay.
So the incubator like Y Combinator, Techstar, and there are a gazillion of them. If you told to them, they have a Rolodex of contacts. And so once you enter into their program and they help you, they do like education program, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 3 months. They help you to build the pitch and build the story and build the business plan. And
Okay.
once you're ready, they do demo days and sessions where they connect you with some of their angels or venture
Yeah.
capital in the network.
Yes,
So
yes.
they have the
Martin,
contacts.
Martin, it's easier today to find the right source of money than ever.
Yeah.
Like when I was, running my fundraise, it was
Yeah.
it still wasn't, I mean, it was still sophisticated, right? But it was not easily determined which is the best source to fund and or how do I find those folks, right? So you had to leverage a lot of different people's information and who could they recommend you to. But now there's lists. I mean, on
Yeah.
LinkedIn there's
Yeah.
different people posting
Yeah.
a huge list of VCs as well as angels. David Rose, has a book out. He's got different sources for funding. I mean, there's lots and lots of different pieces and paths
Mm.
to complement everything that Alessandro had mentioned
That's
too.
true.
I mean, all those different paths are easily available now than ever before.
Yeah.
So to answer your other question about how long and how many conversations and that type of thing. I mean, shit, we looked for almost a year, but we were very early, right? And back then it was very difficult to find people that were um, interested in investing in the seed round. I mean, everybody wanted to come after things were de-risked, right? Um, and basically it was tough for us. But needless to say, today, you can put those investors in different buckets as Alessandro had, basically outlined, and identify those folks. So it's you could go from starting a list of 30, 50, even 100 different investors,
Hmm.
and that could take you 2 months to go through and start to communicate with them, and then start making pitches to them, right? After you get some type of relationship built up with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Right.
Understood. Understood. So,
Alessandro, would you agree with everything I just said?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. 100%.
okay, but what I can tell you from a patent attorney's point of view, to me, this is not obvious. So, and there we have another one here. Roland is also here, and I believe he would even less agree. And when we talk with inventors, very often they pay the first patent from their own pocket. And Roland, please share. What do you know?
Okay, as a matter of fact, I do not know much about the financing of the inventors who come to us, but generally speaking, I think Alessandro has given lots of valuable insights and also
Yes.
supported by the insights of Rich. Maybe one important issue, because you, Martin, you started out with a question in the beginning because you said, okay, I would bet on pre-sales.
Yes.
Alessandro said a very important thing. He said, okay, when venture capitalists come into play, it's more or less in the proof of concept phase, which means, okay, you don't have a product ready for the market. You have a product which is in your mind, which has to be implemented, and there is still some certain risk that implementation won't work. That's where the venture capital comes into play, because it's still risk money. So your idea of pre-sales, getting money from promising sales afterwards, probably does not work with those high-risk new technologies, which still need a proof of concept. And I think this is what Alexandre said when he lined out that there is still some certain risk involved with risk capital, which should be obvious by itself. He also said there are several stages. Yes, of course, we all know that. And the more de-risk everything becomes, that was the input from Rich, the more willing, less risk affine investors are to put their money in. As I said, I don't know how our startups get their money, but another thing which I can confirm is I think it's much easier nowadays to really attract money. Everything has become institutionalized. All the universities have their own programs. They have foundations for promoting startups. In German TV, we have even shows where investors evaluate ideas and then bid for the best idea if they think it's worth putting their money into it. So yeah, these are my insights and my take-home messages from this session.
I'm going to add in, Martin. So the next step for founders are to sign up for companies like PitchBook or other platforms where you end up posting your pitches and your idea and your traction metrics. So that way investors can start at least showing interest in your company. And basically you have to start broadcasting your success over a multitude of platforms. And that's why it becomes an absolute full-time job just to do all that marketing around pitching.
Yes, I agree. And even more, I would say that the typical startup founder is not aware of that.
And I have my PitchBook onboarding at 10 o'clock, so in 8 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we will finish in 7 minutes and 59 seconds. So you won't miss that one. Yeah, so I'm so grateful that we discuss about that, because the hard truth is that if you don't do your sales of the company itself, then you will run out of money. And yeah, Roland, I agree. The pre-sales cannot solve everything, especially not if you're going for technologies that don't have an application in the market. And I can also see, Alessandro, when I read a bit about your background, that you also worked for venture capital arms of big companies, and I found that even more interesting, because is this the way how they get non-incremental innovation into their companies, or what is the idea behind BMW running a venture capital arm?
Right. So the corporate, the BMW, the Siemens, the Hyundai, the Intel, the Samsung of the world, right? All the top Fortune 100 and more companies have some kind of venture arm. They, they, as big as they are, as big as they have R&D centers, right? With, 100,000 engineers or more as Siemens, obviously they don't invent everything. They cannot. And in this world of rapid technological change, a lot of discovery, invention, innovation is done elsewhere. It's done by other people. It's done at universities. It's done by startups, right? So venture investment give them a chance to break into, to tap into innovation, but done by others, done by third party in early phase. And so their goal of investment is called strategic, it's not financial. So the pure venture capital firms have only financial interest. They invest to make money. It's only a money game. The corporate is not about, even if they invest in Google and they make $1 billion, okay, it's nice, but they're already $200 billion company. So $1 billion doesn't change much. They are there to find the next technology that they don't have in-house and that they probably will take them a long time to develop themselves, or maybe not even, like AI, artificial intelligence. The BMW does not have AI, so they want to work with new startups because they already develop it and they can take it and integrate into the products. So it's a strategic goal to get access to technology, products, and markets, and even to potentially look at new business models. So take car industry. The business model of car companies until today is to design, manufacture, and sell cars to consumers. Well, this model is changing because now there are the Uber of the world. And the Uber of the world is where people in cities, especially young people, don't buy a car anymore. They don't want to buy a car. They don't want to own a car. They don't want to insure a car. They don't want to have the hassle of parking a car. So they call Uber on an application that takes them from A to B. Now, if everybody does like that, you're not going to sell cars anymore to consumers. So the model is now maybe you sell car to the Uber of the world, right? So the model is changing, is becoming in a way B2B. And then even in the next future, when the vehicle will be autonomous, potentially they say nobody will own a car anymore. There'll be maybe a few companies that own fleets of vehicles that come and pick you up. So through electric and autonomous vehicle, new technology, the business model is changing. If you don't adapt, you will disappear, right? It's when Kodak, right? It's the classical example. They were selling a camera to make, analog photo that you print out on paper. Well, when digital came, eventually Kodak went out of business because they didn't adapt to the digital, technology and approach. They kept doing the same thing. And so the problem for corporate is there is new technology all the time coming that could potentially disrupt an entire business, an entire industry. So if you don't follow, if you are not there, you might go out of business at some point. That's why the main largest company in the world, Japanese, German, Korean, American, French, you name it, are in Silicon Valley and other location of the world looking for startups. Make sense?
A lot of sense. And it seems to me that the US is the place to go if you are into that area. So all
the Silicon Valley is the place to go. That's why everybody is going there. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I see, because I saw here in Singapore, I'm here since 24 years. And so I saw the efforts of building up a startup ecosystem. I was even involved a bit, I must say, but I couldn't see that the momentum building up here. And I see from Germany that there is some momentum, but it's by far not what I see from Silicon Valley. And
I mean, everybody is obviously into the innovation game and trying to build, ecosystem with new technology and startup, because also it's about job creation.
yes.
So other cities in US like New York, Austin, Boston, they're trying to copy Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and then the rest of the world have been trying to copy Silicon Valley. So Singapore for sure, which is a state city, right, with 7 million people. So it's kind of like the Bay Area where the, Singaporean government is very active and very innovative and has a lot of money. And so they've been already for over 20 years, they've been trying to develop a venture ecosystem, and it's driven by government there initially, where they start creating early venture capital initially in biotech. They have EDBI, right? EDBI, Economic Development Board in Singapore. They have their venture arm, and they have other incubator. They have AlphaStar. For example, if you're a medical company, you want to initial R&D money, you go to AlphaStar. You get grants from Singapore government. And so anyway, and then they have Temasek, and so they have a group of vehicle that can invest early stage, late stage. But then over time, they've been creating a venture ecosystem there, which is good, has been growing, right? I mean, it's not Silicon Valley, it's also different because market is different, but Singapore is the leading place for Southeast Asia, right? And for startups also, especially if you look, Singapore market is small, obviously, 7 million people. You cannot build a big business only in Singapore. You build the technology, the product, the team, but then you have to go conquer other markets. Malaysia next door is pretty small, but you have Indonesia, and that's a big market. You have Vietnam, right? And so you have other Thailand and so on. You have different markets potentially, or you look at US or Europe, right? So eventually, whatever company you build out of Singapore, you have to look at what market are you targeting. Is it China? Is it Southeast Asia? Is it India? India anyway has other challenges.
Okay. Alessandro, we reached the end of our hour, and I cut here now because Joe also need to go to his investment financial meeting. Thanks for joining us today, and you all see you next week again. Thank you and goodbye.
See you next week. See you soon. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.